This is the fairy tale of Professor Wilda and the Frozen Spring. Prologue. Professor Wilda lives far out on an island in the archipelago. She is a very special professor who solves the mysteries of nature. On her desk at home are piles of maps and books, and on the shelves all around are jars containing exotic plants and objects. The walls are adorned with diplomas she has received from her many adventures and discoveries. Of course, a professor who explores mysteries of nature always has a new adventure brewing. This time, it all started with a simple knock on the window. It was her best friend Alve, a little bird who seemed to be in a rush. Wilda hurried to open the window. "Hi, Alve, how are you? Has something happened?" Alve paused to catch his breath before he hurriedly tweeted. "The forest seems to have been frozen into an eternal winter. Snow and ice still covers all the land, and the birds and animals are starving. Nature needs our help." Wilda nodded. She had noticed that something was not as it should be. Plants did not grow as they used to in the spring. "What do you think has happened?" she asked Alve. "I've heard rumors that the mountain troll Brimner is angry with the people for not caring about nature anymore." "I understand," said Wilda. For 1,001 years, the forest had belonged to everyone. Now whole mountains were blown up for mining businesses, leaving large holes in the ground, destroying the homes of many troll families. Huge machines cut down ancient trees without even thinking about what they were doing. This had made Brimner, the largest troll of all, furious. When a mountain troll gets really angry, things begin to happen. Boulders had been turned on their heads, and streams were frozen solid. Poor animals and plants were numb of frost, if not deep under snow. "We must break the spell," Alva exclaimed. Already the next morning they traveled north to try to stop Brimner and his spell on nature. Before they left, they asked the doves of the forest to bring the message to people who could help. You who are listening to this story now are such a person. That means Professor Wilda and Alve need your help to break the spell of the frozen spring. The magic threshold. Wilda and Alve arrived at the brim of the forest. It was a magical forest, and to enter it properly, Professor Wilda had a special trick. "Alve, we have to find a stick on the ground. Remember, we must not break a branch from a tree." "Yes, so say the rules of the magical forest, and so does the right of public access say." "Here." Wilda found an old twig lying next to the path. She picked it up and placed it across the path. Now the twig became a magical threshold, a kind of gateway into the world of the fairies. Wilda stepped over the threshold and then counted 11 steps forward, while Alve followed her. To help Alve and Wilda, you can also enter the world of the magical forest. Find a stick and place it on the ground in front of you. Step over it and walk 11 steps forward. 3. Your secret sign. They were now inside the magical forest. At the place where the 11th step landed, Wilda wrote the first letter of her name, W, using small twigs she found on the ground. This letter sign worked like a key to open her own magical sense, giving her power to see things beyond the ordinary. She stopped and took a few deep breaths. 1, 2. Wilda barely had time to take her second breath before new things began to appear around her, such as a stump of moss next to the path was now clearly visible, and she saw that it was really a little troll with green hair. Wilda could now also see exactly which canes would act as magic wands to solve various problems. But it was Important to find the right magic wand for the right problem, then as well, which was not so easy all the time. Do the same as Wilda if you also want to open your magical sense. Write the first letter of your name using twigs on the ground. Then close your eyes and take 2 deep breaths before opening your eyes. Then look carefully around to notice new details in your surroundings. 4. Your protective amulet. Wilda and Alva hurried on. They knew that the mountain troll Brimner had very powerful senses and could easily discover them in the forest. Fast, before Brimner noticed anything, Alva chirped a bit nervously. Yes, rumor has it that a troll has eyes and ears both front and back, although no one has dared to come close enough to see it for real. We need to find something to protect ourselves with, said Wilda. They searched the ground to each find an object to use as a protective amulet. Professor Wilda took a stone as big as a thumbnail, and Alva found a suitable large comb from an elm. They held the amulets and said a spell out loud. I promise to protect nature, and then nature protects me. The amulets brought out their courage and strength, the kind that we all have within us, but sometimes forgets. Thus an amulet works its magic. Find an object that you can use as your own protective amulet to bring out the strength and courage in you. The tree that does not remember spring. 5. Wilda and Alva went further, deeper into the forest, searching for traces of Brimner's spell. They especially looked at the trees around, the large ones and the small ones. They chose one medium-sized tree and looked at it carefully. They touched its trunk and looked for signs of spring leaves. No signs of spring here, said Wilda. So the spell has already come this far south, exclaimed Alva. Now we have to help the trees, Alva, said Wilda. To help the tree remember spring, they held their hands against the tree trunk, closed their eyes and focused their thoughts on what the tree would look like in spring, full of sprouting green leaves. The magic lies in their memories talking to the trees, helping it remember. The tree shook its branches slightly as a sign of gratitude. The spell lost its grip, bit by bit. The tree could now pass on the memory of spring to other trees, because trees actually talk to each other, but in a completely different way than we do. They use underground fungal networks and fragrances to communicate. Wilda and Alva closed their eyes to better be able to catch a tree fragrance with their noses. Alva, who had the most experiences of this and often practiced interpreting the languages of trees, finally said, Now I can sense the trees talking to each other. They are spreading the message of spring. They help each other remember, said Wilda in a satisfactory voice. You can also help the trees to remember. Hold the tree stem with both hands and think about what the tree looks like in spring when green leaves begin to sprout all over its branches. Then the next chapter, 6, is about movements in nature. 7th chapter, walk quietly and invisibly. The 8th chapter, when everything goes wrong. The 9th chapter, behind anger lies grief. And the 10th chapter, compassion triumphs over the spell.